Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Now today in this video I'm going to talk about technique, designing technique versus workflow. Unfortunately, those two subjects haven't been covered enough, and I'm going to give you a little bit review and example of why is it so important and the things that you need to consider when we're talking about technique and the workflow when you're designing. And I'm also, of course, I'm going to give you an example, and in the end, you're going to understand exactly what I'm talking about. And yeah, it's going to be from the last two videos that I've made, how to design a wooden boat. And I'm going to show you, in regards to that, as an example, how to do it with a new, I would say, more solid technique and workflow. Now, technique, when we're talking about technique, it's mostly about how we're going to design, what tools we are going to use. And when we're talking about workflow, sorry, it's more about the steps that we're going to do, the sequence, where we're starting, are we going to start from the inside out, or are we going to design from the outside in? And which is why it's so crucial that your technique and your workflow, there is a good balance between them. Because if you have your workflow is not good enough, you didn't start the right way or the right sequence, then it's going to affect also on your technique and vice versa. And I know right now it sounds like a gibberish, but in a moment you understand everything what I'm talking about. And it's better actually to show than to explain in words. Now, if you haven't watched my last two videos designing wooden boat, and then go watch it, and then you'll understand much better. But I'm also going to show you right now exactly what I mean, because this is a really good example when we're talking about technique and workflow. And sometimes if you make a little change, that's going to have a huge impact. So for that, without further ado, let's start. And I'm in the end, in some point, I'm going to show you what I realized in regard to the changes that I needed to make. And I'm going to use for that, I'm going to design this wooden canoe that you see here. And yeah, let's hope it's going to go well as I planned. So if we're starting now from just a second, I have an issue with my mouse here. It's kind of teasing me, so let's fix it. And okay, so let's go into this wooden boat that I've created the last two videos. The way I started, the beginning was okay. If we're talking about the sketching and everything, was okay up till this point. Let's just see, let's found it. It was here. Up to this point, basically, it was okay. But then I started working from the inside out. I started first working on the ribs, and then I moved working on the skin area. And this is where things started to, didn't work 100% as I wanted to. But I managed to fix it, and I also showed you exactly what to do and what not to do. And so as you can see here, I've basically finished the shape for the ribs, and then I took the impression from the ribs design, the shape. You can see I took the impression from here and the bottom. So I created this surface, and then I extruded. This is basically the technique. I extruded. I used the extrude tool. Like the extrude, the thicken tool, to thicken the surface outwards. And The reason was because I couldn't thicken it inward because of the body of the ribs here. And but then I got this thing here. I couldn't extrude all the face together outward, so I had to divide it. This face first, and then the second face. Again, some kind of limitation infusion part. When I tried to thicken everything together, the whole body here, the whole surface, it gave me an error. So I started thickening this one and thickening this one, and then I got this space here. So I created a new, and then I combined them together, and then I created a loft from the model here. I created a loft between the two faces here, and that's how basically I filled the whole inside, this crack. And then I continue, and it worked just fine, but it's not perfect. I was thinking about it days later, and I thought about, okay, there must be something I can do better, something with the workflow or the technique. And then I realized two small changes that I can do, which gonna improve it almost, huge difference it's gonna make, both in the workflow and in the technique. And now I'm gonna show you exactly what I mean, and you're gonna also understand exactly what's the difference between the technique and workflow, and how and why they should work together in order to create a much better design experience. And it's going to help you again if you need to, first on a performance in general, second if you're going to need to edit also the design later on or along your development. So this is the result that we are going to get in the end. Now first I want you to check out the bottom here at the timeline. You can see how short it is. And second, look here at the browser. As you can see, now you can see basically the changes that I've made. I started first with the skin, then I moved to the ribs, and not the other way around. Now why I did this? Because to thicken the surface inward, I didn't have a problem. And what I did afterwards, I took impression of the surface from the inside of the skin, and I used it to create the ribs. And then again, I thickened the surface of the ribs inward. Again, it make much more sense. I didn't have any problem with that. So and it makes in general a lot more sense, because when you're sketching basically the total, the overall, dimension of that object that you're going to build. Yes, for example, let's just say this is the canoe. So I've created, I can show you here, it's the same sketching. Okay, I can go into the sketches and so show dimensions. Okay, so you can see these are the dimension for the both the total dimension, which means I cannot go basically outside, because then if I'm going to thicken this sketch here outwards, then it's going to be bigger than what I actually planned. So I need to design it inward. So I'm starting this design from the from the outside in. And I'm going to show now exactly what I mean. So let's hide the dimension here. Okay, so this is our design. This is the sketch. I don't need to create it from the beginning. I'm sure there are many kinds of design and so on, and you already know how to do it. If not, then you can always go back to the other videos. It's the same technique, and learn how to do it. Now, so at this point, I'm just going to go into the model environment, and I'm going to make sure that our skin component is activated. Remember, it's very important. Now we can go into patch environment. I'm going to create loft, I'm gonna choose this profile here. I'm gonna move into this one, and I'm gonna use the bottom part here as the rail. And here we go. Gonna click OK. I'm just gonna activate both of them again. And now here at this point, I can already do the cut. I'm gonna use this profile here to cut here the axis at the top in order to get the final shape. So I'm gonna use to split bodies. I'm gonna use this body here and I'm gonna create select. I'm gonna select this one and this one. And then I'm gonna click OK. So now you can see we got this axis here, which we can disregard it. Okay. At this point now we can go in and here mirror. We can mirror this. I need to change it to a body, and then we can mirror it to the other side here, and we can also stitch it if you want. You don't have to, but we're gonna stitch it together. Now next step, and this is the crucial one. Here you can see this is again where the workflow and the technique comes together in harmony, you can also call it. So we're going to select this one and this face, and I'm going to give it, let's just say, I don't know, let's say 2 millimeters, okay? And actually I should give it -2. It's going to give us an error now. It's not going to do what I want. Here you go. Because I see that's the issue. You cannot really, you know, thicken those faces outward. Again, some kind of limitation because of the shapes and so on. So we're going to thicken it inward. And you can see, worked beautifully, no issue whatsoever. And this is also what we want. Now, the next step. Now I don't have to work on it anymore. The next step will be we're going to create a new component, and this component is going to be our ribs. And in order to create them, so now we're going to create an offset of the face inside of the skin, okay? And hopefully it makes sense to you guys, so we can hide now the skin. And here we go. This is the surfaces or the faces that we're going to use in order to create the ribs. And you can see here everything works really smooth. Now we are basically having we have one body, which is good. And again, the same process. We're going to thicken this one here and this one here. And it shows us that it's going to thicken outward, and we don't, oh sorry, here, this face and this, and now it's inward, which is good. Look at the arrow. So we're going to choose, I don't know how much you want to thicken it, maybe 5 millimeters. It's up to you. You can make it actually even more. Let's give it 10. Good. And we click OK. And here you go. So this is the part, this is the body for the ribs, and this is the skin. And if I'm gonna go to the inspect here, I'm gonna change the components colors so you can see the contrast. See how it looks. I'm gonna go closer. Okay, see, it fits perfectly. And let's look overall at the timeline, and look at that. How beautiful. We're almost halfway of our design, almost. And from here, basically, we can just continue exactly the way I showed you on how to design the wooden boat. The process is exactly the same. We are going to, you know, let me see here, going to create construction plan here. Going to be somewhere about here. It's okay. I'm gonna create a sketch on this plan. We're going to create a line here. Our first one, it's going to be, let's just say, somewhere here. Click OK. Another one here. Click OK. We're going to give it a dimension. It's going to be maybe 20, the width, and we click OK. And basically from from here on, it's exactly the same process, the same workflow as the wooden the video that I showed you how to design a wooden boat. So I'm not gonna do everything, but I'm just gonna do this part because I think it's really fun. It's really cool to do it, and it's so easy and it's simple. So we finish this one. We go inside here. We need to turn this one back on, and we're going to do exactly the same split body. We're going to choose this one now. The splitting tool is going to be this one, and now we got our first rib, which is this one here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to the pattern. We're going to create a rectangular pattern, and we're going to choose features. We're going to select this cut and this one, and the direction, it's going to be on the red, which is the X. So we're going to choose how far do you want it, and let's change it. It's about, let's just say, yeah, it's okay up to here. And how many pieces do you want? I just say 20, and you click OK. And you can see the process is much faster. We don't have so many sketches and everything, and the workflow and the technique was also right, was no issue with that. And here you go. Now from this point, you can just select them. You can select them from here, be much easier. Those are the pieces that we don't need. And we're gonna hit the V on the keyboard, and that's the shortcut for hide. And we can now show the skin. You can go back to the top, and here we go. This is it. You see how simple it was. So I've made a small change, and I didn't have, I saved myself trouble, of doing extra steps, extra loft in order to to fix this. And it's going to be exactly the same. So you're going to start, if you, for example, designing, let's just say, a boat, yeah? But it doesn't matter, it can be anything else. But for this example, for those of you who want to design boats and saw the 2 videos that I've created, the only thing you're gonna have to change is you're gonna have to start from the outside, from the skin, exactly the same step. You're gonna thicken the faces inwards, and then we're gonna create a new component for the ribs, and you're gonna make an offset of the faces inward, and then you can continue from there. Okay, and yeah, so this was the example of why it is so important. What I wanted to show you here, the whole point of this video, why the technique and the workflow is so important, and there is a good balance between them. And it really doesn't matter what kind of design you're doing, what kind of object you're working on. If you have some issues, really revisit your technique that you're working on, and the workflow. And the reason is because Fusion, or if it's SolidWorks or whatever other software that it's out there, they have their own limitations in regards to the tools. They're giving us tools. Now it's up to us, and some basic workflows, but it's up to us to figure out how we're going to use those tools. And this is where the parts, you can say your creativity, So there are many people out there that have tried many things, and they are, like you say, did the job for you and give you all kind of techniques and workflow which you can use. But it's very important, to have this, you can say, as I said before, the balance, the harmony between those two. It's the how you're going to design it, what tools are you going to use, and the workflow, which means the process. Where do you start? Which component? And it's very important. So I did here a very simple change. I started from the outside, the design, and then I thicken also to the inside. So as you understand now the difference between the technique and the workflow, and why it's working much more flawlessly, you can say that. Okay, so you see at this point, if I did it the same way as I did it here. So if we take the example this boat here, then for example in the timeline I would be somewhere here in the middle. Would be much more faster, much more clean, much more simple also for the system. It's going to be less heavy, less steps, in order to then you can go in and do all kind of changes. For example, I can go in here to the original sketches, and I can say, okay, you know what, this one it's way too wide, so I can go into this one here. I can go into the dimension. I can say, you know what, I just need to flip it. I don't want it that wide, so it's this one here. I want to make it, I don't know, 130, and boom, almost. Again, my computer is not that fast, and I'm also recording, but it's usually happening really fast. As you can see, no problem, no errors, nothing. It's very easy to work like that when you have a good combination between the technique and the workflow. So watch it, I don't know, more than once if you haven't understand it yet, and I hope in the end you will understand it. And again, it's not only specific for the designing boats or something like that. It's for everything that you're going to do. So think, before you're starting to design, go through the process, where you're going to start, if you're going to start from the inside out or from the outside out, which part and how you're going to design them, how you're going to use the different tools, if it's the loft, how you're going to use it. Again, it's got its own limitations in certain situations, and also the thickened, for example, it's got also its own limitations in certain situations. So think about it before you're doing. So don't get frustrated when you have some errors. Then just rethink. Okay, maybe we should try it the other way around. Okay, that's exactly what I did, because I wasn't 100% happy with this one here, which is why I decided to do rethinking and figure out a better way. And that's why I decided also to create this video, because I then noticed that remember that not so many people, YouTubers out there or the companies themselves giving enough attention about it into those two areas, the technique and workflow. And this is also my main reason why I'm doing these videos. It's for you guys to learn about new techniques and also about the workflow. But I hope you like this video. I know you've been waiting for another one, and it's how to turn a 3D object into a 2D object, which you can then turn into the DXF file, and you can send it to your CNC machine. This video is coming next week. I'm working on it right now. There's a new plugin which is work amazingly for that, and you're gonna be really impressed. And yeah, so I hope you look forward, because I look forward to finish the video and to show it to you. So it's gonna be maybe next weekend, something like that. I can promise. I'm quite busy at the moment, so I'm doing everything I can to bring it out to you, because this is, you can say, that one of the last pieces that I need to show you in regards to designing boats or anything else that you want to turn from, change from 3D into 2D, because you need to print it out. So Yeah, I'll see you in the next video. If you like it, thumbs up. If you dislike it, thumbs down. And please give me your comment, okay? It's very important, especially if you didn't like the video, or maybe you not agree with me. Just write it down. I will review it, and I take it really constructively so I can make it better next time, okay? Be as specific as possible. So that will be great. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.